all the bad ideas happen at 2 a.m. So hi friends, as you've probably noticed, life sucks right now. I personally haven't been reading much, haven't been putting much effort into this channel, but tonight I was sitting here and I had an idea. There's this book that just came out last week called Crave by Tracy Wolfe. I first discovered this book about a couple weeks ago. Someone on book Twitter was talking about it. They posted the cover along with its synopsis. I saw the cover and I was like, that's a Twilight ripoff. This is about vampires. And then I read the synopsis, which I would like to give you a dramatic reading right now if you would just give me a moment here. My whole world changed when I stepped inside the academy. Nothing is right about this place or the other students in it. Here I am, a mere mortal among gods or monsters. I still can't decide which of these warring factions I belong to, if I belong at all. I only know the one thing that unites them is their hatred of me. Then there's Jackson Vega, a vampire with deadly secrets who hasn't felt anything for 100 years. Me either, get in line. But there's something about him that calls to me. Something broken in him that somehow fits with what's broken in me. Which could spell death for us all. Because Jackson walled himself off for a reason. And now someone wants to wake a sleeping monster. And I'm wondering if I was brought here intentionally as the bait. So that's that. I'm not gonna lie, it sounds fucking terrible. But I also kind of want to read it. And so I thought of this video, you know, I read Crave so you don't have to. Unless it ends up being amazing and I want you to read it. Now I literally just started a new book tonight and it's a book I'm very excited about. Kingsbane, the next book in the Furyborn trilogy, the second one. Last one comes out in October. And I'm super excited to get back to that world and those characters. But because I've been struggling so much with reading and video making and just life in general, when there's a spark of something that makes me want to do something, I feel like I have to latch onto it. So this is going to begin my reading vlog for Crave. Perhaps I'll read it, decide I don't want to, and this video will never see the light of day. Or I'll get through it and I'll either hate it or love it, and it will either ruin reading for me or get me back into it. The possibilities are endless, friends. Let's go on a journey of, I don't know, some emo 2008 bullshit from what I can tell. Literally on the first chapter. First page of the first chapter, I'm already, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. What did I just get myself into? Okay, it's about to be 3 a.m. I really need to go to bed, but I wanted to give a little update. So first of all, I'm really enjoying the fact that this character is suffering from anxiety and depression and stuff, because basically in the synopsis that I read for you, it doesn't say this, but the main character's name is Grace. She's 17 and she's moving to Alaska from San Diego to go live in the boarding school that her uncle is the headmaster of because her parents both died in a car crash. Pretty typical situation there. I just like that. It's like, oh, I talked to this therapist and learned this about panic attacks. I was like, okay, okay. But what really made me want to bring out the camera is what I just read, and I'm blurry. So she's just met the bad boy character. I think it's gonna be Jackson or whatever his name was. They didn't exchange names. That's another point to this, to where I'm going. They're just like having this like moody conversation where he's like, you shouldn't be here, and she's like, well, I am here. And he's like getting close to her, and they're having that kind of, it's like an angsty moment, and I was kind of getting drawn into it, I'm not gonna lie. But at the same time, I'm like, y'all just met. And even more so is there's this point where he asks her like, oh, what are you afraid of? And she's like, nothing to be afraid of when I've already lost everything. And then I have this moment where they just look in each other's eyes and she's like, oh wow, all my animosity towards him is gone. We are on the same wavelength. I feel his pain. I think he feels mine. I'm just like, y'all literally just staring at each other. How the what? But at the same time, it was a little angsty and I didn't hate it. But I just don't get why we're already here. I feel like we're going too fucking fast.
Why are we going so fucking fast? Whoa!
Oh yeah, and also they're quoting Shakespeare. No offense to you 17-year-olds, but do y'all quote Shakespeare Because I, 25-year-old, sure don't, but maybe it's different when you're in a YA book, which she also mentions. She like breaks the fourth wall and she's like, I'm not a YA character. It's been a journey. Night 1 has been a journey, but I will say, I'm getting through it. It doesn't really take brain cells, and that's the kind of book I need that kind of book right now. I'm sorry, but these chapter headers are sending me. Told myself I was going to bed, but I didn't yet. And this line, I wish that the last words my parents and I spoke weren't hurled at each other in a fight that seems so stupid now. I wish that my dad hadn't lost control of the car 2 hours later and driven himself and my mother off a cliff, plunging hundreds of feet into the ocean. Elena from the Vampire Diaries, is that you? I have a lot of thoughts. And also not a lot of thoughts because there's not many brain cells.
The next day.
Do you want to build a snowman? So it's 2 a.m. again, and I have a lot more to update you on than just this, but I'm gonna do that tomorrow. But the love interest, who I think is a vampire, the reveals are happening very slow. Tell me why he just gave her a copy of Twilight. I hate it here. Okay, so in the last bits of daylight, let's do a proper update for this book, shall we? Right now, I am 42% of the way in. Sis has still not learned that everyone at this school is like a creature and that the guy she's crushing on is a vampire. 42% of the way in. Which, by the way, when I started this, I did not realize that this book is 592 pages. So the bottom line is this book is bad. It's not good. The writing is so cheesy. The main character, her name is Grace. She is so annoying. I'm trying to keep in mind, like, she's 17, so I'm not expecting her to be, like, obviously super mature. Like, she's still a kid. But what gets me is she'll be, like, really, I don't want to say dumb, but just, like, annoying, at least to me, like, the way she thinks about things. Like, every time she sees the love interest, the vampire that she doesn't know is a vampire, Jackson, she's like, oh my god, he's so sexy, oh my god, he's so hot, oh my god, oh my god. And I'm like, girl, you have said this like a million times. We get it. But then she'll go and like start quoting like Shakespeare or just historical events, just things that like 17-year-olds don't know about and definitely don't quote in their daily lives. I'm like, your personality does not match that. Maybe if her personality matched like an arrogant asshole that knows everything, Gansey basically. And then at one point she's having like a texting conversation with him and she's like, BRB, and I'm like, do people do that? For scientific research, I asked my niece because she's 17 and I live with her, so like I feel like I should know some things about 17-year-olds. Her response was this. So by her definition, I would say it was casual, so it was kind of weird, but like, again, I don't know, 17, whatever. Beyond that, let's talk about the love interest, Jackson. As annoyed I am by her being like, oh my god, he's so hot, and like basically falling in love with him in like 2 days, like I swear everything is happening so fast yet so slow at the same time. Her connection with this guy, she's like, oh, it's so instant, I feel it. He's broken and I'm broken. I was actually really enjoying the love interest though, because every time he does come on page, even though Grace is being pretty cheesy and like super insta-lovey, I'm also like angsty, broody boy, horny tension, monkey brain is appeased. Because it is super angsty and there's a lot of tension and I'm like, oh yes, very good, we love to see it. So I get fooled during certain parts. I'm like, oh my goodness, I might love this book. And then the next page happens and I'm like, oh my god, I hate this book. But it's also very addicting. Like, it's bad but not unreadable kind of bad. Like, I wouldn't force myself through this just for this video. I would DNF it if it was that bad, but it's not horrible, it's just bad. I really hate how this book kind of like breaks the fourth wall a little at points. There's this one part where she's like, because seriously, when exactly did I become the heroine in some YA romance? And like I said, when he sends her a copy of Twilight, like, is this book being self-aware? Is this a parody? One thing I do like about this book is the like kind of anxiety mental health rep. I don't remember if I've mentioned this, but like there's this one quote where she says, "The last time I freaked out like this, Heather's mom told me that experiencing two powerful emotions is completely normal after a huge loss. Crushing weight on my chest, the swirling thoughts, the shaking hands, the feeling that the world is going to come crashing in on me, all completely normal. She's a therapist, so she should know, but it doesn't feel normal right now." Because like I believe I mentioned, Grace lost both of her parents, which is why she moved to this boarding school in Alaska. Did I say it was in Alaska? Because oh my god, I keep mentioning like things about Alaska, and like if I have to read the words altitude sickness one more time. I'm guessing this author is from Alaska. If not, I would love to know what an Alaskan thinks of this book. There's also a part where she's like, "Oh my god, do you want to watch Legacies? It's like they go to a boarding school and they're all supernatural creatures." I hate it here. I hate it here. Going back to the love interest, because my thoughts are just completely all scrambled. He just comes off as this very stoic, broody, angsty boy. Very Aaron Warner-esque, if I must say, because he's like grr with like everyone, or so everyone thinks, but he like is liking this girl a lot, which again, the insta love, oh my god, it's been like 3 days. But there's a part where she starts texting him, like I said, and his answers, like the way he talks, I'm like, okay, now he sounds like a normal 17-year-old boy, but he doesn't there's just so many inconsistencies or things that are just weird, and just the writing, and I'm shaking the camera because I'm knocking into my bookshelf. We also have an iconic line, because no one can think good about themselves in books. Her cousin, who she is rooming with at this boarding school, says, "You look really beautiful." She goes, I roll my eyes at her a second time, because beautiful is a bit more than a stretch. With my curly auburn hair, plain brown eyes, and the random groupings of freckles on my nose and cheeks, I'm pretty much the opposite of beautiful.
Wake me up inside. Wake me up inside.
It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. I'm just rambling here because I just have a bunch of highlights. You can see green is like things that make me cringe. There's a lot of green. Another self-deprecating quote. Anyone else who's dying to meet the new girl are destined to be disappointed. I'm just not that interesting. And like, part of me gets it. I'm very self-deprecating. But she just kind of puts it out of nowhere. Am I making sense? I don't think so. What am I trying to convey here? It's very not good, but I also can't stop reading it. Oh my god, I didn't even get to the best part. So we got main love interest dude, Jackson. Yes, everyone fears him. He is beloved, but also feared, and nobody knows him, and he's popular. And there's this other dude. I can't remember what his name is. Flick? No, Flick is the bug guy in Animal Crossing. I think his name is Flint, and we haven't learned what supernatural creature he is because she still doesn't know almost halfway into the book. Pretty sure he's gonna be a dragon. I don't think that's a spoiler because they hint at it a lot. Oh my god, the lighting is making me look very pale. And by very pale, I mean my natural skin tone. And he's like the other most popular guy in school, but people don't like fear him. They just like him. He's like, he's funny, he's cool. And so of course, they both like are interested in her. And there's like a quote that's like, oh my god, the two most popular boys in school are both dying to be with you. And they hate each other because they're from different groups, I think. But there's also probably a bigger reason that we haven't gotten to yet. It's just so cliche. It literally feels like fan fiction. It's 1 in the morning and this book just took a very Sarah J. Maas turn. And I don't know how I didn't realize it. Well, I finished it. I don't even know what to say here. On one hand, it was so bad. On the other hand, the ending left off on a cliffhanger. Didn't realize this was gonna be a series, but I should have assumed. And I really want to read the next book. Like, this book was bad. The writing was so bad. It read like a bad dramatic fanfic where you know it's really not that good, but you're so addicted at the same time. It takes like 0 brain cells to read. It's like 600 pages, but it did not feel like it at all. My favorite scenes, like I said, were definitely with the love interest. As much as it was so insta-lovey and Grace was so annoying. I mean, at all times, but she always be like, oh my god, he's so sexy. Oh my god, I can't. Oh my god, we met 3 days ago, but I love him. Like, literally, I think this book takes place over like maybe 2 weeks. And a good portion of that is like, days go by as Grace heals because all she does in this book is get hurt. But Jackson, that vampire, like... Where's my vampire boyfriend? I don't know why, but he was so attractive to me. And the scenes with them together, the tension and the angst and the like subtle sexiness. They never actually, you know, do the thing, although they get close, but they don't because I don't know, they had a lot going on. It's also YA. She's like 17. I need to chill. I don't actually think we ever confirmed how old he is. I don't think he's like Edward Cullen kind of old. I don't freaking know. Besides the writing, I think one of my bigger complaints is just that you go into this book because of the synopsis knowing that it's supernatural, there's vampires and there's other creatures, but Grace does not learn this until you're 50% of the way through, and so the first half is just so annoying because you're like, girl. And like, do I have to remind y'all that he's her Twilight? We never got a scene of her reading Twilight though, so I'm a little disappointed. I mean, I don't know what I expected of this book. I guess in a way it was better because I was enjoying myself. Like, I was reading it like, wow, this sucks, but like in a good kind of way. This is like definitely gonna be a guilty pleasure series. Like, not something I would recommend to anyone, but it's like, now that I'm in it, you know? Definitely the romance was the only thing that kept me going. If it wasn't so good and angsty and like good and also bad and also I don't even know how to explain it. I was just, every time the love interest came on screen, I was like, yes, yes. He wasn't like that great of a character or anything. I was just, I don't know, desperate, I guess. I sound desperate. There was definitely also like literal editorial mistakes in this book, like not just like things like commas or whatever, but like at one point she was like, oh, I have this class next, even though in a previous chapter we knew her next class wasn't that. And then later on she's like, oh yeah, I'm going to art, which was the right one, but before I swear she had said history, and I'm just like, where was the editor? I mean, where was the editor for a lot of this? The way I can describe Grace being annoying is just the way the writing is annoying. Like, there's this part where she goes blah 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 blah, but then again, and then in the literal next paragraph she does the same thing, blah 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 blah, but then again she's always adding these little like after notes, and I'm just like, shut up. It could be worse after all. I do go to this kind of school after all. But then again, like those little things that just kept happening, I was like, it does not need to be here. Something else I find interesting is at the end of the book, you get 3 chapters from Jackson, the love interest perspective, like chapters from the book that we already read, just in his perspective. And the writing isn't great, but it's such a step up from when I had to read from Grace's perspective. I was floored. I was like, you're doing this on purpose? you're making her sound like this for a reason? And I think I've mentioned that every chapter has a title, and they're just so bad. Like this one, it says, is that a wooden stake in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me? Also, when they start like really getting into their romance, he bites her because he's a vampire, and he bites her, and she's like, oh yes, this feels so good. And I was a little turned. I was like, oh, it doesn't feel good. But also I was very weirded out because like I don't think I've ever read a vampire's bite being good. Like, is that the general lore? Maybe I don't know vampires, but that was strange to me. I'm gonna talk about some spoilers now, so if for some reason I made you want to read this book, this is your time to tune out. Good luck, soldier. So I mentioned in a clip that the book had taken a Sarah J Maas turn, and what I meant by that is the reason that they are so like insta-lovey connected to each other is that they're mates, of course. On one hand, I kind of like that we got that because it made the insta-lovey stuff like not so cringy, but at the same time, Sarah J Maas has ruined that word for me, and in Jackson's like perspectives, he'd be like, my mate, and I was like, no, not again. I suffered, I did my time. 12 years of it. Sorry, I got interrupted. Where was I? So basically this whole book, Grace just keeps getting hurt, and we find out that it's like some of the other students trying to kill her because there's this whole war with the vampires and the other factions, like the shifters, which are dragons and werewolves, and Jackson, who is like king vampire or will be the king of the vampires, killed his brother because his brother wanted to kill all the shifters. Some vampires agree with Jackson, some agreed with his brother. There's this girl who's Jackson's ex-friend and his brother's ex-girlfriend. She's a shady bitch. She kidnaps Grace at the end. She's gonna use her for some ritual to try to bring Hudson, who is Jackson's brother, back. And so that scene is all dramatic and cringy because Grace is like, I hope that as long as Jackson is alive. Basically, we end up finding out that she's not human. She's a she's a gargoyle, because Jackson's brother kind of somehow comes back anyway, and he tries to kill Jackson, but then Grace is like, no, and somehow went into gargoyle mode. And so the last chapter is from Jackson's point of view, being like, how I get my girl back, what's going on? So that's like the cliffhanger that I'm left on. Like, this girl is just frozen, and apparently, I don't know, does she go to another world? What is happening? I don't know. I don't know if I could fully ever get my thoughts on this book across. Probably gonna give it like 2 stars, because, you know, I didn't hate it, but it does not deserve anything more. So if you watched this mess of a video, thanks so much. If you've read this mess of a book, please let me know your thoughts, because I don't know my own. Let me know if there's any other books that I should read so you don't have to. Hope you are healthy and safe. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.